People working in the construction industry run a high risk of musculoskeletal injuries and disorders because of the hazardous nature of the manual tasks they do. The body areas most at risk are the spine and upper limbs. Musculoskeletal disorders include any health problem affecting your body's musculoskeletal system, the system involved in your movement. Injuries can occur suddenly from a one-off incident, but more commonly, cumulative problems stem from stressing the body repeatedly over a long period of time, possibly many years. The stresses that are placed on the body, either at one particular time or over a period of time, are greater than the ability of the body to withstand the strain. Something's got to give. These stresses are due to any combination of awkward or static postures, excessive force, exposure to vibration, repetitive force or movement, or long duration. Awkward postures and movements include such things as bending and twisting, overreaching, working overhead, working in cramped positions, or squatting. Static postures involve holding the body or parts of the body in the same position for long periods. Holding and supporting an object or working overhead are examples of fixed static postures. Excessive force can involve a very high or sudden force once, or it can involve repeated or sustained force over a period of time. You can be exposed to vibration when using a range of tools, plant and machinery. Hand or arm vibration comes from vibrating hand tools or hand controls, and whole body vibration comes from operating heavy vehicles or machinery. Repetition uses the same parts of the body to repeat similar movements for a long time without a break. Remember, the longer you spend in awkward postures, using excessive force, during repetitive tasks, or exposed to vibration, the greater your risk of injury.
When I was younger, I never really thought about the stress, what you'd put on your body. I'd think about getting my job done to please my boss. We'd lift heavy timbers. Sometimes you'd go out and carry the timber in by yourself, and you'd have it under your arm or on your shoulder, mainly on your shoulder, and that's what apprentices had to do in the day. Instead of picking up like one and carrying it, you'd actually look at it and think, well, hey, okay, I'll carry two this time, and you'd take two in at a time, and you'd struggle, and you'd hurt yourself a little bit, but you'd still do it. The first part starting to break down in my body was my lower part of my back, because you're standing in one spot all the time, and you sort of arch your back to lean over the bench, and you started to feel lower pain in your back, and it just got worse and worse. Being on the tools today, it's a real struggle to do what you have to do. It's not so much got the energy, it's just your body's not letting you do it. I don't think it will ever change. I go and have treatment every month to have it set right so I can get through the next month. If I had my time again to do what I did over when I was younger, I wouldn't do what I did. I wouldn't lift like I did when I was younger. I would change the whole lot of it if I could.
You should also be aware of the 4 common states that can lead to people making mistakes and getting injured. Rushing.
Come on, mate, we need to be off this job today.
Well, it's hard to work fast when the whole area is covered in leaves and rubbish.
Frustration.
How are we supposed to work without a scissor?
Well, it was supposed to be here by now. Just work off that old ladder.
Fatigue.
How you feeling, Dave?
Pretty flat. It's that hot out on the roof. I feel completely knackered.
And complacency.
Hey, mate, you want to lift with that off the ute? Looks pretty heavy.
Nah, should be right, mate. I've always done it this way.
This may account for the common error that people make of only thinking about how they work and what the risks are when they feel pain or are injured. This is clearly too late. You should always stay alert to the long-term risks of poor work habits, just as much as the more obvious short-term risks.
As a young lad, you think you're invincible, you can do anything. I was in my first year, a lot of bending down, a lot of lifting, a lot of work, down low. Building these big wall frames. We were lifting them up, could literally feel it was like an elastic band snapping. Looked at my boss, he looked at me and kind of said, what's wrong with you, mate? I said, look, I think I've done my back. Pretty much out for a month from there. After getting back into work, I just kind of got a bit lazy with how serious the injury was and kind of slipped back into old habits and wasn't really being very vigilant with my lifting and my bending. And almost exactly 12 months down the track, very similar thing happened. I had no idea that I had injured myself until the next morning. It wasn't until I woke up I could barely move. I had prolapsed 2 of my lower discs in the lumbosacral area, right down the bottom. Probably the best of 2 or 3 months that I was in bed, couldn't move. Everyone else was going out on the weekends and having fun, and I was stuck in bed. It wasn't an injury that just affected myself. One of my parents put my socks and my shoes on for me because I couldn't bend down. I had no flexibility, no movement. The doctor, he was asking me, are you getting down about anything? Are you feeling depressed or anything like that? And, thought, nah, I'm all right. I'll be fine, that wouldn't happen to me. I'm a pretty happy-go-lucky sort of person. But yeah, sure enough, 4 months down the track, you start feeling, you feel almost like an invalid. You can't sit. That's something I sure as hell took for granted. The doctor said to me, you'll probably never return to carpentry, and that was really the only sort of career path I'd chosen for myself. Started doing my supervisor's course. I knew I just wanted to be back at work, and just pushed and got myself better through Pilates and daily exercises, strengthening up my back. And after a while, I found myself working again. So being back at work was fantastic for me. It was 2 years into my apprenticeship, and that's not something you want to invest time into and just lose it. You just got to get out there, have fun working, have a good time, learn what you need to learn. But you just got to be careful about the way you go about doing things.
By now, you should have a better idea of the risks you face every day at work. What can go wrong and why? Depending on how serious the risk is, it is up to your employer or the person conducting the business, in consultation with you, to put in place control measures to either eliminate or minimise the risk.
Picking up the covers, just make sure you're bending at the knees.
If the risk or hazard can't be eliminated, then it must be reduced or minimised as effectively as possible. Is it possible to change the design or layout of the work area or the work environment? Building sites change daily, creating the need for constant reassessment. Risk can also be reduced by changing the way your work is organised. Changing the system of work may improve workflow, or it could flatten out periods of high work demands, so you can pace your work better or take more regular rest breaks. Modifying a load to reduce its weight, size or number, or to make it easier to handle will also reduce risk. Always use the best designed tool or equipment for the task too. Wherever possible, mechanical aids or equipment should be provided to do all or part of a heavy, repetitive or awkward task. Appropriate administrative controls should also be available to support these measures. They include being provided with appropriate training, information, instruction and supervision. Maintaining good housekeeping to reduce the possibility of people tripping over rubbish, materials or tools while working or moving around the site. Using team handling techniques. documenting safe work procedures, having adequate signage to remind you of the risks and hazards, being allowed adequate work breaks and task rotation, having early intervention and reporting systems. When managing your risks at work, you should always take into consideration your own ability, as well as things like your age, previous problems, strength and general health. You should maintain an adequate level of fitness if you're doing demanding physical work. Now let's look at the risks and risk controls specific to certain trades.